Good to see you, Michael.
Yeah, good to see you. Thank you.
Hey, Pamela, how are you?
Pamela,
Short meeting.
I'm still in the middle of that other meeting, but I'm walking out now to join you off.
Oh, bless your heart. Michael, the Heritage Tower was meeting today, 2 o'clock. They're making a plan for reopening the museum and getting our program together for the rest of the year.
is this related to the heritage? Is that the museum?
Yeah, yeah, Heritage Tower
Yeah, Heritage
Museum.
Towers, yes. Is it also related to the Peace Garden?
Peace
No, the
Garden.
Heritage Tower. Heritage Tower is the cultural African American Cultural Center in Charleston,
Okay.
and it closed just before COVID, and it's getting ready to reopen.
Oh, wow. Okay, great.
Hallelujah.
The
Oh,
but what I have here is the uh Nichols Community Center, the Black History
Hmm.
Museum in Ashland. And yeah, that's weird, the synergy that I just chose this shirt because I knew of this, but I didn't know of yours, but that's amazing. Um so the
does Ashland have a stop on the Underground Railroad?
uh, uh, Byron, was that for me?
Yeah, does Ashland have a stop on the Underground Railroad?
Across the river, Ohio did. It's not clear if it was a stop for the Underground Railroad, but there was a house on Bath Avenue that was used as the hospital, and there does seem to be some evidence that it was also used to help blacks in their final crossing over the Ohio River to get to the underground location across the river. So, yeah, there is some evidence that a house in Bath on Bath Road was possibly it. Um, that there was kind of an underground basement in that area, and so
Mhm.
maybe that could be where they were hidden, you know. Anyway, yeah, there's some discussions about that. There have been some research done, and it does appear that it's likely that it was a shelter house and getting people. The official stop was across the river, though, so it was an unofficial stop getting them over there.
Hmm.
C.J. Knuckles was that there was a Washington Carver effort to have black schools, and they were really emphasized in terms of, you know, getting a good education. And so he was the principal of the school, the African American school here in Ashland, for like 25 years, and just, you know, dedicated service. What's really interesting is the Ashland city came in there and they said, yeah, we have room. We can give you one whole floor in the Highlands Museum in
Hmm.
the center of, and the African Museum was like, they were really afraid that they were kind of going to get blended in with it. So they made the tough decision to not accept that offer.
Hmm.
That they were afraid of losing their autonomy, and I think that was an interesting decision. So,
Hmm.
as the heritage towers, I think you're kind of going to be faced with those decisions, and you know, maybe there's right decisions, maybe it's just a tough decision. There's, you know, but I think kind of keeping your independence and is an important step forward too. So, yeah, we're really proud of that. This is something that I did learn from the my recent visit there. they had a big display of the Queen Carolyn, and Queen Carolyn was a black queen of England, and her granddaughter was Queen Victoria, who ruled. So Queen Victoria, who was very fond of uh, let's say progressive ideals, was and she replied warmly to Baha'u'llah's letter, and she received it. So that's always interesting. Pamela, you laughed. Did you do some research? Do you know about this queen?
The Queen Carolyn, there's a lot of controversy about her, but whether she was black, and then say, well, it was been so many years ago, and so she wouldn't have had any of the characteristics of, of the of African. And it just made me laugh because today someone came to my house, and my granddaughter, one of my granddaughters was there. There was two granddaughters there, and one is clearly an African American child, and the other one you're not sure, but she looks like a Caucasian child. And I just, the Carolyn thing kind of hit me earlier today when when
That's
that happened.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who is that lady? And I said, you've met her before. It's Jovan's youngest, my daughter's, yeah, oldest, female child. And she just said, yeah, are you here? I'm like, yeah, but as is just a lot of denial and a lot of controversy about the Queen Carolyn. So just funny enough that happened today.
Yeah, there was a movie of an Indian man who came to England, and he worked with the Queen Victoria on quite a bit of things, and then he moved back to India, and the royal court kind of like scrubbed all of mention of him being
Yes.
a tutor for Queen Victoria, his history was basically erased. And in the early 2000s, when he was about to pass, some of his writings came up, and and revealed that he was indeed there, and there was corroborating evidence. So yeah, you're right. It's interesting to see the mix of what is really there and what the court tried to clear out and say, no, we can't, talk about that. And so, yeah, I didn't know that that might have also happened with Queen Carolyn, but yeah, the difficulty is that I saw a comedian, and it was just funny, and he said basically the funny thing is we all come from African women, and so it's difficult to say that if you have this characteristic or not that characteristic, because we all come from that place.
Yes.
So I'm really pleased with the report I done. I only wish more people could hear of it, so I'll be looking to expand my reach of this somehow in the future and try to get more people to come.
And you are recording, right?
It is recording, yes. Uh-huh.
Wonderful.
Yes, and I do notice that we do get views on the YouTube channel. There are some people who sit through these and watch them, so I was pleasantly surprised. We've gotten I think it was 5 full video views, which was very appealing. So I was pleased with that number. It's like, oh, okay, great. And so yeah, it's good that we're recording.
Yeah. Don't keep your light under a bushel, Michael.
Would anybody like to say a prayer? Nobody offers. I have one. 10 seconds to accept.
Please do, Michael. Thank you.
Glorified art thou, O Lord my God. Thou art he, the fire of whose love hath set ablaze the hearts of them who have recognized thy unity, and the splendors of whose countenance have illumined the faces of such as have drawn nigh unto thy court. How plenteous, O my God, is the stream of thy knowledge! How sweet, O my beloved, is the injury which, in my love for thee, and for the sake of thy pleasure, I suffer from the darts of the wicked doers. How pleasing are the wounds which in thy path and in order to proclaim thy faith I sustain from the swords of the infidels. I beseech thee, by thy name through which thou turnest restlessness into tranquility, fear into confidence, weakness into strength, and abasement into glory, that thou, of thy grace, wilt aid me and thy servant to exalt thy name, to deliver thy message, and to proclaim thy claim thy cause in such wise that we may remain unmoved by either the assaults of the transgressors or the wrath of the infidels, who thou art my well-beloved. I am, O my Lord, thy handmaiden, who hath hearkened to thy call, and hastened unto thee, fleeing from herself, and resting her heart upon thee. I implore thee, O my Lord, by thy name out of which all the treasures of the earth were brought forth, shield me from the hints of such as have disbelieved in thee, and repudiated thy truth. Powerful art thou to do what thou pleasest. Thou art verily the all-knowing, the all-wise. It's interesting how the language has changed a little bit, and how when Chogi Effendi translated a lot of these prayers, he used the phrase handmaiden. And nowadays, after a movie and a miniseries, that phrase has changed its meaning a little bit. But when we were doing the commemoration of Flora Kefan and reading some of the prayers, we made sure that we said the word handmaiden as spelled out in the prayers. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah. Well, good to see you, Pam. How's your husband doing?
He's doing fine.
Tell him we said hi.
I will do the same.
And good to see you, Jaden. Is Christy there, Byron?
She'll be joining us soon.
Okay, cool, great. So I would like to start off with the video here.
The Baha'i International Community Addis Ababa office is part of the network of offices that are found globally in New York, in Geneva, in Brussels, that engage with international governmental, non-governmental, and intergovernmental organizations. We are engaged in promoting discourse on issues that are affecting the global society. The Baha'i International Community Addis Ababa office is particularly interested in working with the African Union and its agencies that have a seat in Addis Ababa. The main discourse themes that concern us is peace and security, climate change, gender equality, and interfaith dialogue. Out of all these discourse themes, our main focus is peace and security, because peace is fundamental to what we do. Under this peace and security discourse, we have three objects of learning. The first one is, how do we settle active conflicts? How can we assist communities, societies to bring peace in the situation where there is active conflict? The second one is, how do we involve women in peace? What kind of role they can play in getting peace to our continent? The last one is, how do we build culture of peace through peace education? In this particular video, we are trying to discuss women in peace.
The Baha'i writing states that men and women are like wings of a bird. One cannot thrive without the other. It also states that true attainment and progress will not be established until equality is there, and that men and women become peers. Let's take one example of women and aspect to war. Women by nature are opposed to war. So when more women get educated and start involving different levels, war will cease and peace will come. Women are also important stakeholders of peace when we look at it from a family unit. The Baha'i writings describes a family unit as a space where praiseworthy morals and capacities are developed. So when a family fails to acknowledge equality, women are belittled in society, and it gives way for aggression and oppression.
Apart from family level, women can be promoters of peace at community and societal level. They can also be peacemakers in their worship and workspaces. This they can do by creating meaningful conversation and consistent action wherever we find ourselves. When women stand and work for peace, for sure there will be peace. Because we are assured that when women call for peace, the men listen. It is their natural God-given talent. Women know how to provide unconditional love and care, which is important for peace. When there is violence, women are affected the most. So women have greater responsibility to engage in peace process. This is basically the discourse on women in peace.
We invite our partners to join hands to work together for the promotion of peace and security in Africa. You can visit our website bic.org, or you can write us using our email address addisababa@bic.org. Thank you.
So that video was an incentive for me to prepare this pivotal role of women in society, a Baha'i perspective. The Baha'i Faith strongly... Pamela, can you read this sentence for me, if you don't mind, or this section? The Baha'i Faith.
Okay. I think you shared it there, right? So I'm trying to pull it up on my phone. The Baha'i Faith strongly emphasizes the equality of women and men as a fundamental principle for individual, family, and societal well-being. This teaching, explicitly established by Bahá'u'lláh, the faith's founder, and reinforced by key Baha'i text, highlights the essential and transformative role of women across all areas of life.
Thank you, Pam.
Mm-hmm.
Could you continue on that with the equality in education?
Okay. Women have equal rights with men in all spheres of life. Baha'i teachings underscore the importance of giving women equal education and access to all opportunities. The education of daughters is considered especially paramount because it is believed that the progress of humanity depends on both wings, men and women, being equally strong. The Lord, peerless is he, hath made women and man to abide with each other in the closest companionship, and to be even as a single soul. They are two helpmates, two intimate friends who should be concerned about the welfare of each other. If they live thus, they will pass through this world with perfect contentment, bliss, and peace of heart, and become the object of divine grace and favor in the kingdom of heaven. But if they do other than this, they will live out their lives in great bitterness, longing at every moment for death, and will be shamefaced in the heavenly realm. Strive then to abide heart and soul with each other as two doves in the nest, for this is to be blessed in both worlds. I can't see it anymore. I don't know what I did.
No, that's it. You got it. Perfect.
Okay.
And so I'm an engineer, and the phrase that I talk to people is it's like a pilot. It's like two pilots in the front of the airplane flying the aircraft. So they switch the duties throughout the flight, and but it's the responsibility for both to manage the flight. So one might be at the controls for a bit, and the other will be checking the displays. Then they'll switch off maybe at the thing. This quote here is that Abdu'l-Baha does is similar to that, and he says it's like two doves in the nest, and I love that. And so the difficulty with being understanding these is recognizing that yes, we may be different, but it's not one over the other. It's two intimate friends helping each other, like two doves in the nest or two pilots trying to fly an airplane, you know. If anybody has any thoughts, they can add to these quotes. Okay, great. We're going to go on. Chaden, you are on mute, but if you could read the next paragraph, that
Yes,
was
of course.
splendid.
Okay. The principle of religion has been revealed by Baha'u'lláh that women must be given the privilege of equal education with man and a full right to his prerogatives. That is to say, there must be no difference in the education of male and female in order that womankind may develop equal capacity and importance with men in the social and economic equation. Then the world will attain unity and harmony. In past ages, humanity has been defective and inefficient because it has been incomplete. War and its ravages have blighted the world. The education of women will be a mighty step towards its abolition and ending, for she will use her whole influence against war. Women rears the child, educates the youth to maturity. She will refuse to give her sons to sacrifice upon the field of battle. In truth, she will be the greatest factor in establishing universal peace and international arbitration. Assuredly, women will abolish warfare among mankind. The promulgation of universal peace.
And this is really powerful. And Byron and I have talked about this principle even being in Indian cultures where a mother, if she does, allow her son for sacrifice on the battle, that's a difficult step for that woman. So it really has to define the battle. But more than likely, for stupid reasons, she would refuse to give her son's sacrifice upon the field of battle because of that motherly love. Any thoughts on this paragraph? I mean, that's powerful stuff right there. Byron, can you read the next two paragraphs for me? You're on mute.
Yeah, it's pretty tiny on my screen. If you
Okay,
can read for me.
let me. Okay, I can read it for you. When all man, Pamela said the same thing. I'll see if I can zoom it up a bit here.
Yeah, it's still pretty tiny for me. Thanks, Michael.
Okay, good. So I zoomed it up a little bit. When all mankind shall receive the opportunity of education and the equality of men and women be realized, the foundation of war will be utterly destroyed. Without equality, this will be impossible because all differences and distinctions are conducive to discord and strife. Equality between men and women is conducive to the abolition of warfare for the reason that women will never be willing to sanction it, the promulgation of peace. In the world of humanity, the female sex is treated as though inferior and is not allowed equal rights and privileges. This condition is due not to nature, but to education. In the divine creation, there is no distinction. Neither sex is superior to the other in the sight of God. Why then should one sex assert the inferiority of the other, withholding just rights and privileges, as though God had given his authority for such a course of action? If women received the same educational advantages as those of men, the result would demonstrate the equality of capacity in both for scholarship. In some respects, woman is superior to man. She is more tender-hearted, more receptive. Her intuition is more intense. The world in the past has been ruled by force, and man has dominated over woman by reason of his more forceful and aggressive qualities, both of body and mind. But the scales are already shifting. Force is losing its weight, and mental alertness, intuition, and the spiritual qualities of love and service, in which woman is strong, are gaining ascendancy. Hence, the new age will be an age less masculine and more permeated with the feminine ideals. Or to speak more exactly, will be an age in which the masculine and feminine elements of civilization will be more properly balanced. In doing research on this, I came upon a lot of stuff that was really interesting. But one of the major things in hunter-gatherer civilizations, there was a place typical of these where men were, the bachelors, if you will, were kind of like in the middle, and they were kind of like outside of the niceties of a family life, and the women were kind of were masters of their little tents or whatever, and they would invite the men in, but it was a female-driven society. And then you get to basically the Greek and the Roman times, and that was where the masculine ruler was kind of like that thought. The beginning of Western civilization, the masculine ideal was celebrated. And so it's interesting to see that interesting dynamic even in our modern day society, where we have that masculine ideal from the Roman and Greek times, and yet we still have the push and pull of the old hunter-gatherer societies. So I thought that was interesting. And it can be really seen in Mexico, where there's a strong uh, hold on to Indian cultures, and their Mother's Day is not on a Sunday, which is not recognized as a federal holiday, but it is a federal holiday on a Monday. And so Mother's Day are celebrated, and they're given their own holiday, among other things. So yeah, my research into that, the masculine and feminine elements of civilization this past couple of weeks has been pretty interesting in that regard. Okay, I guess we'll go to Pamela again. Could you read the spiritual station and social contribution? Pamela, you are on mute. If you could read it, I would greatly appreciate it.
Am I there?
Yeah, you're good, ma'am.
Okay. Baha'i texts affirm that women and men share equal spiritual situation and potential. Contributions to society are not determined by gender, but by dedication, capacity, and capability and character. Bahá'u'lláh declared that there should be no distinction in spiritual rank between men and women, and that all are recipients of God's grace and gifts. Okay, help me with this. I can't. We're jumping back. Abdul-Baha, is that how we say it?
It is, yes.
Has pointed out that among the miracles which distinguish this sacred dispensation is this, that women have envisioned a greater boldness than men when enlisted in the ranks of the faith. And I can't say those next two words. Those.
You're doing great.
Shoghi
Effendi has further stated
that this boldness must, in the course of time, be more convincingly demonstrated. And when for the beloved caused victories more stirring than any it has as yet achieved. Although obviously the entire Baha'i world is committed to encouraging and stimulating the vital role of women in the Baha'i community, as well as in the society at large, the 5-year plan calls specifically on 80 national spiritual assemblies to organize Baha'i activities for women. In the course of the current year, which has been distinguished, um, I can't say it again, oh, where am I? Designated International Women's Year as a worldwide activity of the United Nations, the Baha'is, particularly in these 8 national communities, should initiate and implement programs which will stimulate and promote the full and equal participation of women in all aspects of Baha'i community life, so that through their accomplishments, the Friends will demonstrate the distinction of the cause of God in this field of human endeavor.
And the important thing there is the 1975 date. So this was 50 years ago, if I'm doing my math right.
Yes.
So this was a while ago, but the interaction with the United Nations and the Baha'is in distinguishing women has been going on for quite a while. Shaden, can you read about the mothers and the advancement of peace?
Yes.
Thank you.
Women's influence is seen as vital to the establishment of global peace. Baha'i writings state that the education and empowerment of women will lead to the cessation of warfare, as mothers will not permit their sons to be sacrificed in war. War and its ravages have blighted the world. The education of women will be a mighty step towards its abolition and ending, for she will use her whole influence against war. In truth, she will be the greatest factor in establishing universal peace and international arbitration. Assuredly, women will abolish warfare among mankind. Do I continue?
Yes, please.
Okay. Corinne True received a reply from Abdul Baha in June 1902. The letter said, "Know thou, O handmaid, that in the sight of Baha, women are accounted the same as men, and God has created all humankind in his own image and after his own likeness. That is, men and women alike are the revealers of his names and attributes, and from the spiritual viewpoints, there is no difference between them. The house of justice, however, according to the explicit text of the law of God, is confined to men. This is for wisdom of the Lord's God, which will ere long be made manifest as clearly as the sun at high noon. As to you, O ye other handmaids who are enamored of the heavenly fragrances, arrange ye holy gatherings, and found ye spiritual assemblies. For these are the basis of spreading the sweet savors of God, exalting his word, uplifting the lamp of his grace, promulgating his religion, and promoting his teachings. And what bounty is there greater than this? Baha'is, I don't see here. Baha'is, men and women alike, are agreed on one principle. Hierarchical systems that place men above women in a divinely ordained order have no sanction within the Baha'i scriptures. In this respect, the Baha'i faith is unique among revealed religions.
Yeah, and so this was powerful. So he did write that letter to Corinne True in response to the ruling of the Universal House of Justice, but she and others are encouraged to promulgate his religion and his teachings. And another thing that's notable is his appreciation for their work in the Baha'i Faith, and in that respect, Baha'i Faith is unique among the revealed religions. So, Byron, I did change it. Do you still feel uncomfortable with reading, or do you want me to read this? Okay. So,
Let me see if I can blow it up a little on my phone. I think I should. Societal balance and progress.
Yes, please.
The Baha'i Faith promotes not just the inclusion of women in masculine roles, but a transformation of society where feminine attributes like compassion, intuition, receptivity are valued and balanced with masculine qualities. Only with such balance can society achieve true development and peace. The status of women in former times was exceedingly deplorable, for it was the belief of the Orient that it was best for women to be ignorant. It was considered preferable that she should not know reading or writing in order that she might not be informed of the events of the world. Woman was considered to be created for rearing children, attending to the duties of the household. If she pursued educational courses, it was deemed contrary to chastity. Hence, women were made prisoners of the household. The house did not even have windows opening upon the outside world. Bahá'u'lláh destroyed these ideas and proclaimed the equality of man and women. He made women respected by commanding that all women be educated, that there be no difference in the education of the two sexes, and that man and woman share the same rights. In the estimation of God, there is no distinction of sex. One whose thought is pure, whose education is superior, whose scientific attainments are greater, whose deeds of philanthropy excel, be that one man or woman, white or colored, is entitled to full rights and recognition. There is no difference whatsoever.
And so thank you.
Of course, that's from Promulgation of Universal Peace. It says 1982 edition, but it was actually during his travels through America in 1912, and so absolutely revolutionary in the context. And of course, when the Baha'i community grew in America, 80% of it were women, and yet being the time, the 1920s, when the first National Assembly was elected in 27, Corinne True was on that assembly, but all the rest were men.
Yeah. And Abdul Baha came and he really encouraged women to get more involved, like he said, in the development of these assemblies and talking about the faith and really encouraging them. One of the things that he talked about is the no difference in the education between the two. And I think we look now at the universal education, regardless of men and women and white and colored, and we kind of take it for granted, thinking that the way that it has been, but it has not been. We look at past history and we don't find that to be true. So we have made quite significant gains with regard to the opening up of education for all people in the past 100 years. And I could even say within the past 50 years, there's been tremendous movement in that regard. But this is a reminder of where that we still have a ways to go, and that we're still working towards it. But it gives us hope, on the other hand, where we were before and where we are now, that we are moving in that direction, progressing forward. Active participation of all fields. Baha'i teachings encourage women's involvement in all areas, industrial, agricultural, scientific, political, and beyond. Their capacity for leadership and service is recognized, and they are seen as crucial agents of change and progress. And so it's not, one sex being different than the other. It's rather that they're working together. Just key analogies and quotes: two wings of a bird. Humanity can only reach its highest potential if both men and women advance together like two wings, enabling a bird to fly. You got one strong wing and one weak wing, you're going to be, not flying straight. Another is mothers as peacemakers. Women, especially as mothers, hold the potential for abolishing war and establishing peace, giving their nurturing and protective roles, especially nurturing and protecting of their sons. And so mothers as peacemakers, that is a criteria. A woman sending their sons off to war, that is very strong delineation point. So that's why mothers can be seen as peacemakers. The bottom line is the Baha'i Faith considers the pivotal role of women in society as essential to the advancement of civilization, the achievement of global peace, and the realization of a just, prosperous world order. It'd be difficult to think of a prosperous world order with only half of the people working toward that prosperity. And one final thought is the insinuation of that a prosperous world order is built on peace. It's just devastating how bad for the environment, for the land, for the air, war actually is. Explosions create a lot of smoke. Damaged buildings have to be rebuilt. It's not very helpful for global climate, air cleanliness, water cleanliness. And so the importance of peace isn't just to help humans out, it's also to help the whole planet and its climate journey. Are there any other final thoughts with relative to our presentation today? Byron, you have
Michael, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
I just want to mention something that I think that Abdu'l-Baha, when they in the United States, they put the committee for the temple, for building the temple. Everybody was expecting to have a man leading such a project, and Abdu'l-Baha put the Korean True in charge. So it was a woman who was in charge. This is in the late 1920s. So it was in action that it started, and she played the role. And of course, it went on through under the ministry of Shoghi Effendi, and the temple was successful. So it was a woman leading, but at that time, nobody, even in the United States, would have thought that you put for a big project like this a woman in charge. And one of the thoughts I had is that I think that a society that is described as equality of man and woman, it's unknown on this planet. We haven't experienced it, and we're still far from it. Because I see, for example, especially in universities and certain fields, women to succeed have to behave like a man. And that's not equality. Women have to we should appreciate the qualities that are there. Intuition, like tenderness of heart and all this thing, which unfortunately in many places is considered as weakness, because we've inherited this, because the idea is force and power, and all this language of the past. And it takes a long time to overcome this. But we're getting there, but it's slow and painful. Particularly, being in a household that I'm the only male. So I try to make sure that my daughters do as much, they don't stop doing whatever is needed for them to do, to go forward. It starts with the family. It's like the last, you saw the message that came about family life from Universal House of Justice and how critical that document is. We're studying here in our community about how it's foundational for the society building that we are engaged in. Just some thoughts. Sorry.
No, those are wonderful thoughts. And I would even venture to say that if you see a woman really excelling in the world, you can rest assured she comes from a family such as yours, Jaden, a family where she was recognized for her, virtues and her value, if you will, of being a woman and her experiencing that and sharing it with the world. So, absolutely, it comes from an education, a family, and a society that helps her grow and nurture within her femininity.
Yeah. One last thing I was reading when I was more involved in university administration, we were trying to encourage more women in the STEM disciplines, science, technology, math.
Mm-hmm.
And then a study came out, which was interesting. It's in elementary school and middle school, they realized that even female science teachers, without knowing it, they were encouraging boys into sciences, and indirectly, there was a bias. They were encouraging, not willingly, I mean, just this is part of our culture. We're pushing the girls toward more fields like humanities, arts, and they realized that they need to change that.
Yes.
It was a subconscious type of bias because we've inherited this for such a long time. Math and science and things is for men. That's not true. Abdul Baha says that it should be open to everybody.
And followed up, I think, to that study, or maybe it was a different study, said that the women asked a lot less science questions starting from that middle grade. And by the time that they, because when you go ahead and you ask a young girl, do you have any questions? Yeah, why is the sky blue? Why are the plants green? Why does this tree grow like this? Well, they're full of science questions, and it kind of gets beaten out of them, maybe not directly, maybe kind of hidden, like you said, Jaden. And by the time that they're, in high school, they have oh, I don't have any questions. So yeah, there's a natural curiosity, and we got to sustain that curiosity in middle school.
And we need role models. I grew up in Europe and in France, for example. Even in the field of nuclear physics, we have almost 40% of women, which is unheard of. Okay, in most countries, other countries, it's 10%.
Yeah.
And you know why? Because of the example of Marie Curie.
Mm-hmm.
You need a woman. You need role models. We have to encourage as more and more women do things, then it attracts others because it shows and proves that they're able to do that.
Mm-hmm. And there was a wonderful film out. I think Ron Howard directed it, called Hidden Figures, and it was a movie about NASA, and
Yes.
and it highlighted at first the struggles of these women trying to go ahead and show, hey, we can be the calculators and the computers that you need to go ahead and get you to space, and it highlighted those. But on the other hand, it also showed their capacity to work within the structure that they had to try to succeed and be successful in helping NASA send those astronauts to the moon. So yeah, it was a good movie.
Yeah.
Great movie. In fact, she's West Virginian, Katherine Johnson.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes. She graduated from West Virginia State at age 18.
Oh, wow.
And, there was not a graduate program in mathematics until 1953. And then she was recruited by West Virginia University in Morgantown
Yes.
to their program.
Yes.
She never got her doctorate in mathematics. She got married and had kids, but was recruited by NASA. And I mean, it is a telling story because the guys at NASA, all they were doing is shooting rockets up and letting them fall to the ground. She was the first one that worked out the math to put a capsule in orbit, to go from linear to circular.
Yes.
Movement. An amazing woman. There's a statue to her at an institute for Katherine Johnson. It's over 6 feet tall. She's
Wow.
amazing woman.
Wow.
And you've just stirred up a lot of thoughts. And Pamela, I wanted to let you speak too. I didn't want to for the guys to take over this whole conversation.
No, you haven't hit the button right yet, Pamela. Not quite there. I'll let you know when you hit it, and you still haven't gotten it. Okay, you're close, I think. You haven't. Let me see what I can do.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, well, I have several different notes, and yes, the Katherine Johnson story, that the Hidden Figures was a good story, and to follow up with that, but I wrote a couple of things here. Tara Boy said, "I am woman, hear me roar." That's something hit me earlier with that, and then when there was a talk about Greek and Roman times, and for the women not to be able to read and write. And we know that practice still goes on today in a lot of cultures and a lot of religions, that they don't want to allow the females to be educated. And you sit back and you wonder why. And yes, that word ignorant, they want them to be ignorant to many facts. They don't want them to have the knowledge to be able to do things. But what ends up happening many times is, as in the Katherine Johnson or the Hidden Figure story, they're the ones that have that knowledge to be able to do it. They're the ones able to do it. And so you want to stifle them, as Archie Bunker would say, but you definitely need their help. And you wonder why. And it just, as you mentioned, Hidden Figures, and you just try to imagine, not only were they female, but they also were women of color. And the young man that's on the line, Shaden, I think his name is, I'm not sure exactly, where you stand in that with the individuals of color, but it's very difficult think about what all they have to overcome. And that still exists today, still exists today. And I said to one of my employees here we were reading something or talking about something. I said, well, I was unfortunate to be one of the darker skinned children at the school here, where they were not promoting phonics. They probably weren't calling it phonics back then, but I was really discouraged from being able to pick up on, the phonics and those rules. It's just, all the little things that happen to females, because I had two brothers that also attended that school. One was light and one was dark, and really never talked with my the darker skinned brother as to how his treatment was, but he seemed to not have that same issue that I had. And we went to the same small school. He was male and I was female, and it seemed that he was encouraged and I was not. Where our siblings, other brother and sister, both were very light skinned, and they had received different type of treatment. And as when I see that with my children today, and their children, it is just saddens me to see that that's still, happening. And it is the world that we're living in, and I'm, hoping, believing, and dreaming, and have visions of one day this will not be the case. I fear that it's not going to be within my grandchildren's lifespan that this type of discrimination and oppression that's what it is. It's they're being oppressed, and then when we need you, come out and sing and dance. And so I'm getting ready to get too deep into it, but women do play a great role in in various religions. And in my church, I look around, and it's 90% females, and except for the few men that are there, and they have the lead roles, and well, we're talking out of both sides of our head. They're talking out of both sides of their head. They're saying women, should be able to do this and can do that. But all the upper levels of management and lead roles in the church are held by the men. So
thank you, Pamela.
mhm.
And because, there's so much on my heart about how women have proven themselves to be better leaders. And, I know many women in the world dream of having the privileges that women do in America. But one of the most beautiful stories, of women ending war is how the women, or really the grandmothers in Liberia, stopped the war.
Yes.
And it's just the most beautiful story. And Jade and I was also thinking about women engineers when Ford put together a woman, an all-woman engineering group for Ford Explorer. They ended up building the safest van that they'd ever built, and the women even remembered to put a dimmer on the canopy light so that when you open the door, it didn't wake up the baby. I mean, it just some beautiful things that are, women understand that the guys, all they want is a bigger, faster car. But
yeah, you're absolutely right. And Pamela, you're right. We have a long way to go. I'm sorry, Byron. I didn't mean to. No,
to
interrupt, but
women. There actually is a woman at Texas A&M who has researched the differences in countries as far as being, aggressive and disrespectful of their neighbors, tendency towards war, and pushing around hegemony. And they find that countries that have a greater equality of women in politics and in government are more peaceful nations. Wow. It's beautiful work. I'll share the link with Michael, and maybe you can add that to
the notes.
The notes as we go on. But we know that especially in the Baha'i world, the communities are really run by women. The women that are doing the education of the children, the women that are doing the socioeconomic development projects. When you give women economic opportunity, they spend it on the health and the well-being of their community. When you give men development money, give them money for development projects, worldwide, they tend to spend it on more wives and blow it on consumption. It doesn't go back to the family. It doesn't go back to the community.
That's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why education of children is important, to make sure that we don't perpetuate this stereotype. I was reading an article that was interesting at university. They had a club of robotic. Okay, so they were elementary students. I mean, 10 to 12 years old, or maybe 8 to 12. They mixed boys and girls, and to program robots. And the boys were taking over, and the person in charge was letting this happen because they're more aggressive. And they were programming the robots to beat the hell out of each other. Then they decided to separate. They did a club for women only, girls, and the girls were excellent at coding. So what they did was the robots were dancing, the robots were performing, theater. They were doing things. You see, so we have to. Education is fundamental.
Yes.
And a young age. That's why the importance in what the Baha'i community is doing right now. The education of children is critical for really hoping to have those changes that Pamela was talking, within maybe 100 years, not 2,000 years from now. Because I agree with you, Pamela. I'm not going to see it in my lifetime. I'm more optimistic. I hope my daughters will see it, but maybe I'm too optimistic.
You're younger than me.
Hang in there. Change is coming.
Yeah.
my own personal experience, my two daughters, my oldest daughter got very interested in chemistry, and so she graduated top of her class in chemistry at West Virginia State. She was so excited. She said, "Dad, I beat out all the boys," and of course, the 4 or 5 other chemistry majors, and she went into forensic science eventually, and most of the doctoral students in forensic science are women, because the guys all go into criminal justice. They want to carry the gun and the handcuffs and things like that, but they are so good at the lab work. And she was always, after the guys that would come in and do their little lab projects and not clean up. It was just horrible. And my other daughter, she also was very good at lab work, and they find that women have a better sense of titration and graduations in color, gradations in color, and they're just much better at lab work than the men are. In fact, we're able to calibrate the machines to a higher tolerance. The guys were happy when the machines were tolerating 98% efficiency, and my daughter got them up to 99% calibration of their yeah, and it's just fantastic. And I think we will it's the women in Iran, when they stood up and said enough, that it's changing the country in Iran. And 2/3 of the people in prison in Iran are now women, because they are calling for a change in society.
Yeah.
Yes.
So one can only hope that the Russian women get on it and stop the Russian-Ukraine war from continuing on. It's amazing how much that starts. There was also some discussion about the Northern Ireland conflict that was going on, and then it suddenly ended, and that they traced it back to mothers kind of getting involved and saying, let's stop this. They're, kind of like, we're England, we're not supposed to be getting involved in this stuff, and it was women who started prayer movements and other activities to stop that Ireland conflict that was going on. So yeah, you're right. There's examples throughout history of women leading that change.
Michael, I think Pamela is saying bye-bye. She has to leave.
I think we're all going to head out. We love you, Pamela. Thanks for coming.
Take care.
Take care, everybody.
Love to Charles.
We'll
Take care. Be
this
safe.
again in 2 weeks. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.